Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Insurtech, How to Leverage Technology to Get More Out of Business Insurance, presented by Embroker and Early Growth Financial Services. My name is Amanda Young, and I'll be your moderator today from the Early Growth team. I have just a few quick notes before we get started. This webinar will last about an hour, and that includes time built in at the end for questions and for discussion. We'll also take questions throughout the webinar, so please feel free to type a question into the control panel, and when we have a stopping point, we'll go ahead and answer those. The next thing to note is that this webinar will be recorded and sent to all registrants, along with the slide deck within 24 hours. You can also find this recording and all of our other recordings on our YouTube channel, Early Growth. So now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce our panelists today. We have Alaa Ismail from the Early Growth team, and we have Daniel Chavenson and Bill Ferrer from Embroker. I'm going to kick it off to Alaa first to introduce himself and to introduce Early Growth.
Good afternoon, I guess, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Alaa Ismail. I'm a controller at CFO at Early Growth Financial Services. Early Growth, we primarily deal with early stage or middle stage companies. We serve 1 in 4 of venture-backed companies here in the U.S. We have offices in New York, Chicago, Seattle, San Francisco, and in Los Angeles. We address a variety of types of clients and industries. Our backbone is in the technology world, so today's discussion is very pertinent. So our services range from the accounting part of your back office. So we provide senior accountants and controllers that will do essentially the blocking and tackling of your accounting tasks. That's generating financials, accounts payable, accounts receivable, payroll, and we generally prepare your financials in GAAP or generally accepted accounting format. And we're there as your accounting resource from the senior accounting side that will work with you on a daily or an as needed basis. We also provide the CFO services, and the CFO is a typical, will either be part of your accounting team working along with your transactional accounting person, or they could be just a dedicated resource for CFO consulting only. And CFOs are there to address your operational and strategic finance tasks. They're also there to manage your relationship. So it's a really critical resource and a valuable resource that you could count on in your company's growth phases. Another service we provide are taxes. We do the state and local and all federal income taxes on an annual basis for you. In addition, we will do other types of taxes like sales tax returns and certain state filing requirements like Delaware and those kind of administrative tax services. We also perform valuation. All kinds of valuations, but primarily 409A. For those of you unfamiliar with 409A valuations, they are required for pricing of stock options. So it's something that has to be done on a minimum of on an annual basis. So we provide that service to our clients as well. And we help in various fund accounting and administration of those for the certain clients that need that type of services. Like as I mentioned before, our transactional accounting team will assist with your blocking and tackling, your accounts payable, accounts receivable. We'll do your financials on a monthly basis, and your CFO will help you with financial forecasts and generating reports for board packages on an as-needed basis. as mentioned before, we currently support about 18% of privately funded or venture-backed startup throughout the United States. So in a nutshell, that's what we do.
Thank you, Alaa. So now I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Daniel and Bill to introduce themselves and talk about what we're going to go over today.
Great. Well, thank you immensely to Alaa, to Amanda, and to Early Growth Financial Services for having us. We're really excited about the work that the company have done to date, excited about the future, and look forward to talking a little bit about Insurtech today. Like Amanda said, I would just welcome everyone to reach out with any questions throughout the presentation. We also have some time set aside at the end for any Q&A. So really what we really wanted to talk to you today is kind of a soup to nuts about Insurtech and how that's impacting businesses in the small to medium-sized business space today. So really what we wanted to spend some time today talking about is first an overview of why and how technology can help improve the insurance ecosystem. We're going to then talk about where within that ecosystem is capital being deployed, and what opportunities or what business models are people using to approach insurance and make the much better solution. And then we'll follow that with a little bit about Embroker and how technology can make your life as a technology company and as a business owner much easier. And then we'll end with a quick educational piece about where Bill can talk about what to buy, when to buy, and how to get the most out of insurance.
All right, next slide, Amanda. All right, everybody guess the good-looking guys on the right. That's William Furry, that's me, Bill Furry. Daniel and I really come at this from two different sides. Daniel spent the first part of his career as an underwriter, and I have spent 20 plus years on the commercial production side. Next slide, Amanda. And what the messaging there is, it's exciting to really collaborate with employees that actually understand the entire spectrum of the Insurtech space. Next slide. As we talk about Insurtech and technology, what we are talking about is how can we leverage technology to make the buying and management experience for the customer easier, more transparent, and primarily less expensive. Insurance is absolutely pervasive and is an essential part of our economy. The ability to transfer risk, the ability to retain certain risks allows companies to grow. It allows them to deploy assets that are very important in terms of buying capital equipment, increasing payroll, etc., without having to retain on their balance sheet significant liabilities, which would further hinder the opportunity to grow business. Daniel and I are passionate about insurance. Embroker exists today because it wants to improve the experience for the buyers, for the carriers, and for the brokerage community. And so we want to really start from a place of commonality. Insurance is pervasive. Every company is buying it. And the Insurtech space exists just as technology exists in other segments of our economy, is seeking a way to make it more efficient and more effective and priced more transparently. Next slide. What doesn't work? So we agree that insurance is pervasive. We agree that we need it to grow companies and to transfer risk. But there are frustrations from the buyers of insurance. NPS, a Net Promoter Score, is a trademark owned by several companies, including Bain & Company. And what it seeks to do is identify pain points that may exist in the marketplace. These pain points that have been identified for the insurance buying public has to do with purchasing, modifying, navigating claims, and renewing insurance. Overall, people find the purchasing experience to be cumbersome, confusing. The management of those policies, which includes the modification or endorsement, also cumbersome. The claims process, and of course, if anybody has ever navigated a large claim, these are aleatory contracts. So the aleatory portion of the contract says that you pay a certain premium in return for a promise that the carrier will act as long as that's a covered claim. Navigating the claims process can be quite challenging. And of course, renewing insurance as well is also cumbersome. We have certain clients that spend many administrative hours simply completing applications and providing necessary documentation to the carrier marketplace so that they can have that risk priced. Next slide, please, Amanda. And then for all the enjoyment that you get in those 4 stanzas in terms of meddlesome products, it's very expensive. 51% of your premium dollar goes directly to pay for losses. 49 cents on the dollar goes towards distribution, other loss adjustment expenses, taxes, overhead, etc. That's where Insurtech seeks to perhaps create greater efficiency in that 49 cents on the dollar, so that ultimately Insurtech may play a role in driving down the overall insurance expenses by creating greater efficiencies, not only for the brokerage community and the buyer, but also for the carrier. For the Insurtech marketplace to be at its optimum, for it to be the most healthy, is when all of the stakeholders are committed to leveraging technology to deliver a better product to the buying public. Next slide. This is the distribution, and this is merely meant to illustrate the archaic way in which many of the legacy systems of carriers have been created today. Carriers have legacy computer systems that leverage, they certainly use analytics, and they certainly are engaged in that process, but these legacy systems are slow to evolve, particularly to the Insurtech community, in terms of giving us the infrastructure necessary for us to pass information between each other efficiently, and to pass information related to analytics and pricing, etc., over a wide swath of carriers. Newer carriers are going to have newer infrastructure. Legacy carriers are going to have older infrastructure that is harder for us to interface with. So the distribution of the insurance product and its very nature, while archaic, is also held back by these legacy, software systems.
Yeah, and I agree. I'm gonna agree with Bill here and say that if you look at over the last 3 slides, what we're really trying to say is that customers are frustrated, they're unhappy, and carriers don't have the infrastructure technology to really improve or drive value back to the customers. That 49%, if you look at the pie chart, only 3% is profit. So they don't have the ability or the margins to return value back to their customers who are frustrated because of the lack of technology at their fingertips. Next slide, thanks, Amanda. So now now that we've identified that there's an opportunity for technology to play a role within the insurance industry, we're going to talk about a little bit about the development of Insurtech in general over the past few years. I'm sure most of, if not everyone on this webinar has heard the term Insurtech. It has been on a rapid rise over the past few years in terms of not only capital deployment, but also just number of companies formed and people mentioning it in the news. Next slide, please. So overall, the last statistic that we have heard is that Insurtechs have attracted more than $1.7 billion worldwide. And really what we wanted to highlight here is that there's many different avenues in which an Insurtech company can try to improve the process. And that can span from small to medium-sized businesses in the commercial insurance all the way to pet insurance and life and health and auto. There's many examples of extremely well-funded and successful companies in all the different spaces. The one that Embroker is specifically trying to improve is the small to medium-sized commercial business space. That can include a wide variety of insurance products as well as industries. But you can think of it as the general liability, the workers' comp, the directors and officers of the world. So, you know, we've also seen some very successful companies raise an incredible amount of money. Recently, $125 million went to a company that is trying to improve renters insurance. There is another round of funding that is trying to improve homeowners insurance. But really, what this slide is showing is that similar to the way fintech took off a few years earlier, Insurtech as a whole is really receiving an incredible amount of capital. And we believe that this is driven mainly by what Bill was talking about, the opportunity to improve and drive value back to the end customers is incredibly large. So we've seen a wide swath of people investing in Insurtech. I think this is very similar to other industries, you know, fintech and others. So it includes, you know, corporate VCs all the way to reinsurers, players in the space, as well as traditional venture firms.
Who is Embroker? Next slide. We're done with that one. You know, really what we are trying to do, and let's get to the meat of this. We are building a modern commercial insurance brokerage that's focused on the small and middle market space, that is leveraging a cloud-based platform that will ultimately should make the process more transparent, easier to navigate, and provide 24/7 access to data. So if you think about a CFO wanting to get real-time data related to their program, they can access, instead of accessing the moat that most commercial insurance brokerages build around that business, this is available 24/7 for you to see your data. Next slide. This is where we work. Embroker works in the small and medium-sized business space. We do have several area or verticals that we specialize in. You'll see those spelled out there. Importantly, the technology is not a replacement for the broker. This is a relationship business, and Embroker wants to capitalize on those relationships and build upon them. But its primary means of communicating is this cloud-based platform that allows us to memorialize recommendations and see information in real time. Next slide.
Yeah, I think I'll just add something real quick here is that, and Bill hit on a good point, is that our business model is really founded on the principle of pairing our technology with leading industry expertise. We've, you know, Bill and I both came from insurance, the insurance industry, and we both are the first to recognize that the insurance buying process can be complicated. It can be nuanced, and therefore you do continually need, as a small to medium-sized business, you do need expertise to guide you along the process. And so that is really one of the fundamental premises that we built this company off of, is pairing the technology with expertise to really improve the overall efficiency and the buying experience for the end customers.
The model is it's very different, obviously, because it does use this cloud-based platform. The technology is free of charge. We do not charge independently for access to the cloud-based platform. We are paid just the way as traditional brokers are, compensated 99.9% of the time through commissions that are paid by our clients via premium. But ultimately, what we would like to see as our risk management platform becomes more and more pervasive, we're hoping and we're driving with carriers that as we gain more and more scale, ultimately the cost of these products will be less expensive, and those savings will be passed along to the customer. Next slide. How technology can make it easier. So let's go to the next one, if you don't mind, Amanda. Daniel's going to walk you through some specifics about the platform. So we've talked a lot about hoping to establish what the need is. Now we want to take you into what Embroker's proprietary platform is, so that you can see, particularly from the CFO side, how it may or may not benefit you and your customers.
Yep. I'm actually going to just pause there. I know we ran through a lot of stuff, so I want to give anyone on the call an opportunity to stop here and ask any questions about anything that we've talked about so far. But I'll take that as a wait for the end Q&A. So really what we designed our customer experiences around is the idea of providing a much different customer journey. And really what I think we mean there is delivering the data and the specifics around your insurance program through our technology platform. Traditionally, most information is embedded in a complex insurance policy that is stored in decentralized locations, whether it's email or different folders or held actually with the broker. So really, what we wanted to do here is provide all the pertinent information in a central repository style where the end customers have continual access to their own data. We believe that that is the future of how insurance will be done, as well as how business is done in other industries where customers demand and expect their access to their own data. And so really what you can see here is that there's different levels of data provided, and you can click through and see different, more and more granular levels of details. We've also made it easy for our experts to provide recommendations to the end customer. We store, which we think is an extremely important aspect of our product, is that we store all of the recommendations and policy audits on our platform, so that if there is ever a question or there is a need to go back and revisit what was discussed with one of our brokers, you can always simply log on to the platform and refresh with the notes that are archived on our platform. And so really what this does is gives the CFO the ability to instantly prepare for a meeting with the CEO or other board of directors or other senior management team. What we found was that oftentimes brokers are providing guidance which is lost, to immediately after the end of the conversation. And if you fast forward 6 months or a year later, when they're getting ready to prepare budgets for CEO or policy recommendations to board, there was nothing for them to reference. And so we really that is one of the core features that we built into our platform. Self-service is much easier. You have instant access to to make changes and speak with one of our brokers. We also provide descriptions of coverage provided, endorsements, named insureds, etc. All the pertinent information that you'd really need to extract out of the policy.
Another feature that is really, really nice about this central repository is the dashboard function. The dashboard gives you a very quick look at tiles that show when policies renew, what the total premium was. You click on each of those tiles and you start to get more and more granular. As Daniel mentioned, you can get into summaries of insurance, reviewing specific endorsements. What's also nice is you can actually download the actual PDF of the policy. So those are stored, and they also, if you think about risks where you have what's called IBNR, incurred but not reported, this serves as a repository for all policies. So that means that policies that are expired are archived here as well, just like the recommendations. The omni-channel service options, what that means is we're giving you multiple ways to communicate. So we recognize that the millennial population may be more into email-driven communication. All of our brokers, you'll have direct lines to their phones. So if you prefer to communicate in a more traditional setting, we're absolutely ready and willing to do that. This really is an opportunity, though, for you to get a snapshot of the overall total cost of risk, and then to dig deeper as needed. And the overall customer journey can take you in a variety of areas. If you look across the top of the screen, into claims, into certificates, and of course into a digitized application process as well. Next slide.
Yeah, so this is Bill mentioned it, but again, one of our core functionalities is a fully digital application, a fully digital process for the end customers. And this is really an attempt to lower the administrative cost associated with these insurance policies. We found that many customers are spending hours upon hours, like Bill referenced at the very beginning, renewing their coverage. And so what we've done is try to simplify that process by creating functionality where you can upload your policy, and that will be digitized onto our platform with the summaries that you saw on the previous screen. So you can either upload your policies, and that information will be digitized. Alternatively, we do have a fully digital application that you can start from the beginning, which is therefore then stored year over year. So instead of having to recomplete the same redundant information at renewal, you can simply log into the platform, make any material changes, and proceed through the renewal process. Next slide. This, again, I'm going to reiterate one of our core principles here is pairing our technology with leading industry expertise. And so what we do here is provide all of our customers with a coverage audit or a policy audit by one of our industry specialists to identify gaps in coverage, opportunities to improve their policies or lower the cost of risk. And so really what this does is gives our customers access to technology data, but does not reduce the expertise and the guidance that they're receiving along the way. So we believe it's the best of both worlds.
This is an important feature for perhaps for many, and I'll share, this is Bill, and kind of anecdotally, we recently wrote a large development company that had several single-purpose entities owning real estate on the Eastern Seaboard. These individual entities can have individual dashboards, so you can have a login for the parent company, and then actually pull down via multiple company support. You can actually toggle down to each of these single-purpose entities and drill down specifically to that dashboard for policies and recommendations that may apply solely to that single-purpose entity. We can also mirror these single-purpose entities, so if they're outside investors that need to have access to this data without having access to the entire portfolio of companies, we are able to accomplish that as well.
Yeah, and I'll second that by saying, my work on a lot of our partnerships is this has been an extremely important functionality as well, because for all the CFOs on the call, especially those from early growth, and Alaa, you might want to, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on this as well, but really what this functionality also allows you to do is to manage a portfolio of clients under an umbrella. So for someone at early growth, they can oversee and assist with some of the insurance management process, and they can see all of their clients under one single access, one single login, and their individual clients can only see still their information and not other clients. But again, the CFO for early growth can oversee a portfolio of clients.
This is all. I just want to chime in. I think this whole cloud service and this digitization of the whole insurance process is a hugely valuable resource. I don't know how many times that a client will call and say, what's my coverage on this policy and what's my limits or deductibles on that policy. Not only will it give us as a CFO the ability to quickly access this, but it would also give the client the ability to have, kind of simple questions or simple issues addressed rather quickly, as opposed to prior calls to a broker or emails to a broker and waiting for a response, that they could get real-time answers and accessibility to their coverage very quickly. I think this is awesome.
Yeah, we appreciate that. I think you're exactly right, and this function really helps out in those situations.
I would also add in one thing, Alaa, that is really nice about this is we are willing to serve as a repository on policies where we are not the broker. So there may be an instance where a particular client of mine secures workers' compensation through our brokerage, but has a package, say, with a direct writer like Farmers. We are more than happy to have them upload the Farmers information, although we can't obviously make any changes to that particular policy. What it does allow you to do is maintain the integrity of the data and provide that real, that snapshot via the dashboard.
Thanks. Next slide, Amanda. I would appreciate it. Thank you.
I'm going to jump in with a quick question, if you don't mind. Joe would like to know, does the platform also review or display key coverage areas and strengths and weaknesses by policy?
It's a great question, Joe. Thank you very much. So our brokers will do audits of existing policies and provide that data within the recommendations. The technology does not replace the human element of providing the coverage audits. The tiles do put key endorsements, etc., but it is our insurance brokers that are providing the actual recommendations. And we typically gain business by doing a company audit of the existing insurance portfolio, providing that in the recommendations with a path forward. Great question, thank you. I'm going to run through a little bit of like what to buy, when to buy, and how to get the most out of the insurance. Next slide. And the reason we wanted to give you some practical for if you have customers that are scaling. This is something that Daniel and the team can send out. This is our insurance roadmap for technology companies. It has certain guideposts on it that will help you as the operations ramp up to start thinking about coverage considerations. It's a little bit busy for a webinar, and so we'll provide this obviously separately, and we'll talk next slide. We'll talk through a couple of the issues here. Amanda, if we could have the next slide, that'd be great. Basics. The basics are as a statutory requirement, workers' compensation. We all know this except in the state of Texas. But these are little guideposts that we want you to think about as businesses start to scale. What coverages become germane, not just from perhaps a contractual requirement like a lease or taking on a first customer, but also important to protect the assets of the individual entities. So of course, we write workers' compensation in all 50 states. As clients secure office space, they want to start thinking about getting a business owner's policy or a package together that's covering general liability and providing first-party protection for furniture, fixtures, and equipment, hired and non-owned auto, which is obviously always part of contracts. So those are kind of your basics with your workers' compensation. As you get up and running, our brokerage can assist in putting errors and omissions and professional liability programs in place. Think of those as claims brought by third parties alleging economic loss, whereas commercial general liability is providing bodily injury and property damage. The economic component as a breach of a professional service is not contemplated under a liability policy. As you get up and running, particularly in the state of California, we have issues related to employment practices liability. We want to help our clients in a very consultative manner, making sure that they're putting appropriate HR policies and procedures in place. Some clients choose to transfer that risk via an EPL policy. This is for coverage such as suits brought by employees alleging wrongful termination, sexual harassment, discrimination, and can also extend to third parties. As they move through the fundraising chain, of course, directors and officers becomes absolutely essential and is typically required by Ds and Os. And this is our largest growing practice, particularly on the technology side. We have some excellent expertise here, broad market access. And one of the ones that's probably more on people's radar than ever before is cyber insurance. Cyber relates to personally identifiable information that is stored by the named insured that is breached in some way, and that third party, could be a consumer such as myself, has suffered reputational damage, economic damage, credit damage, etc. And these policies are absolutely becoming more and more pervasive in the marketplace. So we want to provide a take behind, a leave behind, which is that tech roadmap, and it'll give you some guideposts as your companies scale. And then of course, we wanted to kind of drill that down in an easier format for the webinar so you could kind of see those guideposts and moving through the process. Also, and I would leave you from a sales standpoint, this is a very consultative business. So because we provide a quotation, doesn't mean that you need to acquire the insurance. Oftentimes, what good brokers need to do is explain what the exposures are, talk about what risk management is available and what risk management techniques should be employed, and then ultimately many clients want to understand what the pricing is. And what our goal is to allow you to make a very informed decision. Doesn't mean that you always buy the insurance, but oftentimes going forward and getting the applications completed and going to market allows the CFO and the CEOs to make a very informed decision about the potential of transferring that risk and what the overall cost is.
Yeah, and thanks, Bill. I mean, I think that's important for everyone to kind of take into consideration. So I'll just wrap up by kind of reiterating why we started this company, or why everyone's here, trying to accomplish the overall objective, which is really helping businesses succeed by reducing their cost to risk. The technology platform is an opportunity to reduce the pain within the insurance process, and as a result, the overall cost of purchasing and managing insurance is going to be lower. So we have a really exciting team with wide ranges of experience. We have a full insurance staff with more than 10 years of experience each. We have 70 or so employees at this point. We're based in San Francisco. We have over 1,500 clients at this point and are constantly growing, which is exciting. And I've been lucky enough to be named by many different parties as one of the most exciting fintech companies to watch across the world. So we are excited. We are always looking to help out other businesses with their insurance and their risk management, partnering with those firms and firms like Early Growth Financial Services to, at the end of the day, again, improve the overall customer experience when it comes to commercial and business insurance. So I believe, Amanda, if you want to flip to the next slide, I think that is it. We would welcome any questions or comments or feedback. We're happy to discuss.
We do have a question from Johnny. He would like to know if Embroker works with foreign-based insurance companies.
Foreign-based insurance companies. That's a good question. I mean,
so Johnny, specifically, and I want to make sure I answer this very clearly, we work with US-based companies. And what that means is these are companies that are domiciled in the 50 states. We can sell insurance for operations that take place in foreign jurisdictions. So for example, if you have a California-based manufacturer that also has a product facility in China, of course, we do work with both of those, and we have access on a worldwide basis. We work with many companies, insurance companies that are not US-based. They have US operations, such as Bermuda insurers, such as Validus, such as Lloyd's of London, and its many syndicates.
Great. So does anybody else have any questions? Or Alaa, do you have any input on everything we've gone over?
I actually have a question. Just and
Awesome.
maybe just reaffirm your the process. I understand that you have a really cool interface and everything is digitized. Can you kind of go into a little bit about the initial engagement, like say with a startup company that doesn't have an insurance package in place and is inquiring about what they need and what they don't need? Can you kind of go over that process of how potential new clients can work with Embroker and what that process looks like?
Yeah, great. So the starting point is really at embroker.com. This insured would register on the site and fill out just a very basic questionnaire. When that questionnaire is filled out, just general information, a broker will be assigned that has particular expertise in this particular area, let's say just technology. That broker will reach out directly to that potential buyer and start the engagement. And what it is a needs assessment. You would have a conversation. I've been on several of them already today. Getting to know the business, getting to know where they're at in the process, what their plans for growth are. If they decide, hey, it makes sense to move forward, they would go back into the platform, and there's many applications in there. We would agree upon, which applications need to be completed. Those applications are done digitally in almost all instances. Of course, it's a wide world of insurance. So we have, the applications architecture. We put a lot in there. They'll complete the application, and that will go out to market with our team, and then our brokers will review and make recommendations. So it really starts in the platform, but involves direct interaction with our broker team to make sure that that needs assessment is done and we're getting the proper quotes.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we work with a number of technology companies from, the range from, startups just getting up off the ground all the way to some medium to late stage growth companies across the country. So we do have quite the experience and are fortunate to be considered a tech company as well. So we do pride ourselves on having expertise in that industry.
We had one other question from Johnny, but he said he'd like to speak to you offline and ask some questions. So, Johnny, we will be sending out an email after this, and it will include everybody's contact information, so you can go ahead and email Bill and Daniel about your question, and it'll also include the slides and the recording.
Johnny, the tough questions go to Daniel, the layups go to Bill.
Perfect. Okay, so does anybody else have any other questions? Otherwise, we can go ahead and wrap this up. Daniel and Bill, do you have any closing comments you'd like to make?
No, I think in closing, we'd just like to thank the partnership and collaboration here. I'm very passionate about our business. We're very passionate about insurance, and we want to welcome you to engage with us, not in a hard sale environment. Check out the website. Check out, we have some videos about the way that it works, and in a very consultative manner. If we can be of some assistance, we'd be great, and if we can't, we'll definitely step aside.
Awesome.
And we'll be sure to distribute the roadmap for technology companies, which is a great resource. Amanda, we can work together to distribute the resource to everyone.
Perfect. Okay, great. Well, thank you everybody for joining. Thank you, Alaa, Daniel, and Bill. This was super informative, and we will reach out to everybody via email within 24 hours. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks.